It's Doc Talk. Here we are. It's Memorial Day weekend, and we've all been waiting for this for months. I love the warm weather, and I certainly love the holiday seasons that are coming. My favorite holidays sequentially: Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, outside activities, really nice time in the community, really nice time for family, concerts, and all of the things that we all love. So, timely topics for today are about safety in the sunshine. We've talked over the last couple of weeks about burn injuries and about hazards of thermal burns, but we haven't had a chance to talk about some of the other threats that come related to burn this time of the year. And so today we're going to talk about sun injuries and the reality, frankly, of skin cancer for many Americans' lives. We have the number one cancer that's diagnosed in Americans and North Americans, so our Canadian friends as well. The number one cancer is skin cancer. Those have a range of severity. And obviously, for any cancer, catching it early is better than catching it late. There are very important protective mechanisms that have to be implemented to us as children and then carried through our lives so that we arrive at a later time in our life when we really need our skin to protect us. And it has not been worn away by years of sun exposure for all of us. Skin cancers have names like basal cell carcinoma, squamous carcinoma, and melanoma. Those are progressively more severe, invasive, and metastatic. All of them are to be prevented if possible, like all cancers, and all of them to be detected early if possible. All of this relates to exposure to sun and other chemicals and things that are part of our life. For the firefighters out there, the combination of sun and chemicals on our skin is not good, and it breaks down protective mechanisms that defend us against infections, against sun and other irritants, and that's particularly important as we get later on in our lives. So it's really important to implement sunblock protection early in people's lives. So that's beginning with children, okay? So let's talk a little bit about sun injuries. A burn to the skin from the sun comes from any lengthy exposure. No matter what your skin type, color, thickness, too much sun eventually burns the skin. It burns it the same way a thermal injury does, which is it begins at the superficial layers and goes deeper if allowed to continue. Any protection that is given to the skin, beginning with clothing, hats, materials, if you can go in a screened-in area as opposed to an open area, all the better. Remember then, on a thin cloud day like we're having today in the beautiful city of Tulsa, where I am this morning in downtown Tulsa, thin layers of clouds do not protect you from the UV rays of the sun, and you could still get a significant burn of your skin on a thin cloud day. As a matter of fact, when a light breeze is blowing like it is this morning and thin clouds, you could almost forget that you're at risk for sun injury. So we could have partial thickness sunburns. That's red, painful, hot skin. You could get to partial thickness if you move through the skin layers, begin to erode those layers, and then they separate. And when they separate, the skin blisters and forms a liquid layer in between. That liquid layer is present there to protect the underlying dermis, so we don't break open blisters until they naturally will almost always break open themselves. And then if left in the sun, and unfortunately this happens to people like the elderly who fall down in the garden, break their hip, can't get anyone's attention, lay for very long periods of time unprotected in the sun, they can progress all the way to a full thickness burn. So just be aware, the sunlight alone can produce very extensive, life-threatening burns. How do you protect yourself? Well, we have a variety of materials that screen us from the sun. In general, they're either chemical protectants or they are mineral protectants. Let's start with the chemical protectants that absorb in particular UVB rays. And those UVB rays are ones that are the most burning to human skin. They absorb the UVB rays, they produce some heat, but then they radiate away the worst of those rays. Those chemical sunscreens work for a certain period of time. If left on thicker, they work longer. If not washed off by exercise or water, they are on longer. But anytime you or your children or other people you are protecting are in water or are exercising, you will naturally flush those protective chemicals off the skin and they no longer can protect you. There's a general rule that sunscreens are good for about 2 hours of protection. But if you're exercising or in water, should be applied more frequently. There are other types of sunscreens, and those that contain certain minerals like zinc and titanium. Those protect from a wider range of UV rays, UVA and UVB. And in general, a mineral sunscreen, because it's a very bright white color on particularly the sensitive areas to the sun. The sensitive areas, and so oftentimes that's the bright white tea on the skin of younger people who are trying to protect, or their parents are trying to protect their skin from the worst of the sun. Those in general block a wider range of sun rays, and they protect for longer periods of time at a higher degree. As you go from something applied to the skin to something covering the skin, like clothing and very importantly hats, remember that top area of your scalp is very, very prone to sun injury and needs to be protected as reliably as the rest of your skin. In which case hats and other forms of head protection are really important if you're in an intense sun environment. For fire EMS people, this means sunblock, sunscreen, hats are kept on our apparatus. And when we're in long outdoor incidents, got to protect our heads, got to protect our skin. And so that is the job of those sunscreens. We have the opportunity to stay safe in the sun if we protect our skin repeatedly with sunscreens and whether they're chemical or mineral, and then clothing or hats to add to that. And then once again, getting into cool environments, replenishing fluids, and getting some calories in, which help us keep the fluids inside as we acclimate to summer weather. Really important that we have an enjoyable holiday weekend. Memorial Day is our first of the traditional summer season. Please be safe out there. There's some very minor things going on, and I'll just give you one timely one. This morning, we had our second case of H5N1 in a farm worker, happens to be from Michigan. That worker was not very ill, and it was found actually from eye irritation of that farm worker. H5N1 will be in the news as we look for cases and protect ourselves from another type of influenza A, which in human terms is a very dangerous strain of the influenza A called H5N1. Nothing for us to be worried about at the emergency level now. Nonetheless, I want you to be aware that it's there, and our public health officials are watching it carefully. Here we are, Memorial Day. I hope you enjoy this weekend and move into our beautiful summer seasons across this continent. Be safe, enjoy. See you next time on Doc Talk. Thanks.